Okay, today we are going to talk about the first 5 questions I always ask without fail when I am trying to expand a story idea into a full novel. Welcome to the Fiction Story Blueprint channel. My name is Liesl Hill. If you are unfamiliar with me, I am a fiction expert and a USA Today bestselling author. So let's talk about the first 5 questions I always ask when I have a seed of an idea for a story. It can be a premise, it can be a scene, it can be a character idea, anything like that, and I want to expand it into a full story idea. Now, first of all, we need to talk about the fact that when you have a story in your mind, it is just that. It is in your mind. It is very, very nebulous, right? And very often we say, no, I know what it is. I know what my story is. But at the same time, if we haven't really nailed it down, if we haven't really articulated it in a very concrete way, then we are not going to be able to communicate it very well. So the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is you need to write it down. That may sound very simplistic, but whether you're writing it by hand with a paper and pen or typing it out, it's like you're pulling it out of your subconscious mind where it's very nebulous and you're putting it down on paper and it becomes so much more concrete. Okay, this is why I always encourage my students to journal on things because you're actually giving them those ideas, those characters, that story, that plot. You're giving it a concrete identity when you're writing it down, and that makes it so much easier to articulate and so much easier to communicate on the page to the reader. So you need to do that, okay? So what I always do is I ask these 5 questions that I'm about to go into, and then I write them down, journal on them, type them out, whatever works for you, but write them down, okay? So the first question that I always ask is, how did I first conceive of this story? Okay, so this doesn't have a whole lot to do with the story itself. And also, I recognize that a lot of people may have stories knocking around in their head for years before they write them down, right? But just write whatever you know. So if you know that you conceived of this story because you were riding on a city bus and you saw something happen and it just kind of, you started thinking, what if that happened in a story? And just write that down. If you don't know because it was so long ago, just write that down. I've been thinking about this for 2 or 3 years. I don't remember how I first conceived the idea, but I do know that first I was thinking this and then I kind of added this to it and now it's looking like that. Whatever you can call to memory, write that down. Take a few minutes to say journal on it, because what happens is once you start asking your subconscious mind those questions, even if you didn't remember very much before, you'll start getting memories of it. Okay, so just relax your brain and let the memories flow and write down how you conceived of the story. And the reason that's important is because it will help you remember your first inspiration for the story. You're sort of getting re-familiar with it in a lot of ways, okay? So that's the first question. Get all of that out, keep writing until you get it all down. The second question is, what experiences brought this idea, whatever story idea you have, to mind? All right, so this is a way to build on what we just did. What did you experience that brought it to mind? What did you experience that made it shift and change over time? Okay, so if I'm writing a story about a bunch of siblings who are kind of, I'm using the chosen one trope for them, and there are also dragons, I might write about the fact that I come from a large family and have a lot of siblings, and that I like dragon stories. I grew up on dragon stories. I might talk about, the Lord of the Rings and maybe Dragonheart and, whatever cartoons I watched as a kid, all of those are going to play into it. And then I can talk about the specific experiences I had that brought this particular premise to mind. Write that down. Same thing. We're pulling it out of our subconscious mind. We're getting it concrete down on paper or word processor so that we have a really good idea of it and it's not nebulous anymore. All right. The next question that I ask myself is, what am I trying to say? So this is where you're going to take a step back, look at the idea for your story from a bird's eye view and sort of analyze it almost from like a psychiatrist standpoint. Okay, if I am telling a story about a girl who falls in love with a vampire who is emotionally unavailable, what story am I trying to tell? What am I trying to say with that story or with those concepts? Kind of take a high level view of it. And this really helps you get clear on where your story is going. Are you going to have a tragedy in the end where the main character doesn't get what they want? Are you going to have them transcend and be victorious and get what they want? Is it going to be a cautionary tale? This is also going to depend on what genre you're writing. Are you writing horror? Are you writing a rom-com? Very, very different, right? So what am I trying to say with this premise? Where am I going with it? Write that down. Okay, the fourth question is, why do you, the author, so not the characters, you, the creator of the story, why do you want to tell this story? Okay, so you just got clear on what you're trying to say. Why do you want to say that? This is very personal to you. And you may be wondering, why are we writing all of this down? What does this have to do with anything? This is not even like the plot of the story or the characters or the internal arc or anything. Okay, this is what I call desires of the creator. And it is very important for you to get clear on your why you're writing this story. It will bring you so much clarity on the story itself, more than you can probably imagine right now. Okay, once you get these written down. So always, always, always go through those questions. Once again, they are: how did you conceive of the story? What experiences brought it to mind? What are you trying to say? And why do you, the author, want to tell this story? Now, as a bonus, before I actually sit down to start planning the story, I also brain dump on what I know of the story so far. Now, most people, again, if you're just starting with the seed of a story, a premise, something small, you don't have it all figured out yet. But what do you know so far? Sit down, start typing or writing by hand, and just brain dump every single thing you know about the story. I know that the main character is going to be like this, male, female, little whatever you know about the main character, their vocation, their age, whatever you already know. I know that this is going to happen in the story. I know I have the scene in mind that I'm going to be writing toward. If you know how it's going to end, put in the ending. If you know how it begins, put in the beginning. Anything and everything you know about your story. And once again, why do we do that? Because we are pulling it out of our subconscious mind and onto the page. And you're probably going to be amazed at how much you already know. You're thinking to yourself, I only have this little tiny seed of an idea. It's not much yet. But you're going to be amazed what you already know. You have to just put it down on paper and get it concrete, okay? And when you did that, now you know exactly where it came from the questions, where you're at now, and that is the jumping off point for what you still need to plan for your story, okay? So one more time, just to recap: how did you first conceive the story? What experiences brought it to mind? What are you trying to say? Why do you, the author, want to tell this story? And what do you know of your story so far? Those are the 5 questions, actually, 4 and a bonus, that I always use when I am first sitting down to write my story before I start planning anything else. And it gives me so much clarity and such a good starting point to then expand my story. Okay, I hope this was helpful to you. If you want more help with this, more support with this, I do have a mini course called Craft Characters That Jump Off the Page, and it's going to show you exactly how to craft emotionally compelling characters that will hook your readers and not let go, that will make your readers very, very invested in your character's journey, and that is what's going to help them keep turning pages all the way to the end. So if that's something you're interested in, check out the link in the caption for more details, okay? Thank you for being here with me today, and make sure and like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos and more writing tips on how to write emotionally compelling fiction.